Well, I think valuing people's vision is that everybody is treated equally as an equally valued human being with a contribution to make to society, and our job is to find out what that person's contribution can be, what they want it to be, and then supporting them to give that contribution. So I work with a woman who has very high support needs, and by employing people who know how to communicate with her and how she communicates, we've discovered so many things about her and what she wants to contribute. So she has been working with us with the health service to explain that just because she's got very complex needs, it doesn't mean that she should be seen just as somebody who's ill, but that actually to keep her healthy, she needs to go on holiday, she needs to have boyfriends, she needs to be out shopping and do all the things that everybody else does. And so her contribution is that she's a trainer with the big organisations in London, helping them to understand how they can include people with very complex needs, such as the right kind of toilets, the right kind of changing facilities, that people's attitudes need to change so that they can see her as an equally valued human being with the same desires, aspirations as everybody else. And that our task is to really change the way everybody else thinks and the way that society functions, so that those people's contributions can just be equally valued. Okay, well, people can be isolated wherever they are, so we can have people in mainstream schools or mainstream services and they can be isolated, but people with learning disabilities have been isolated in specialist services, and often people can be more isolated because if lots of people together don't use words to speak or are not mobile, then it's quite difficult for them to have relationships and friendships with all of the other people who also have those disabilities. And so inclusion has got to be the right way of the future, but it does mean that everybody else has to really work hard to include people. So the activities that we have to be engaged in are supporting systems and services, whether they are mainstream schools, colleges, workplaces, hospitals, whatever service we're talking about. Those places have to be more inclusive, and the general population has to just get better at including the whole range of people. There's a lot of talk about behaviour problems, and I think what we've got better at understanding is when we say somebody has challenging behaviour, what we're saying is that that person is communicating to us that they're not happy with the situation they find themselves in, or sometimes it can be a positive communication but we're misinterpreting that person's behaviour because traditionally we may have thought that that particular behaviour is challenging or difficult. It may be that person's way of communicating something positive. So we have to get better at understanding the way individuals communicate. We also need to have more people who understand those issues. We have to have more people in the system who don't think that somebody's being bad or naughty, that we get better at understanding how people communicate. It is a barrier to inclusion, but we have to overcome it. We have to overcome it by people being seen as equally valued, have equal rights to be there, to be included. And so it's everybody else's responsibility to find out how to include that person well. Planning is a really great way of working with anybody. I've done my own path. The path is a particular way of planning, and they're just good tools for everybody. But they're particularly good for people who traditionally have been excluded or isolated, because it's a way of intentionally thinking about them as an ordinary person, assuming that they have dreams and aspirations, and that there are lots of things that are important to them and important for them that we've traditionally overlooked or we've ignored. And so it's actually the more complex somebody's needs are, the better person-centred planning can be and the more effective it can be, because it's a way of really analysing who that person is, what's important to them, and therefore for somebody who's been very excluded and very isolated, it's a very exciting and creative way of working.